We good?
We're good, Rob. Well, no, we're not good.
Oh, no.
Explain yourself, dude. Why you gotta talk so much shit on our game?
First and foremost, this is my first time actually talking to you. So nice to meet you, dude. I hope you're great. Hope you've had a great day so far.
Oh, dude, it was great till I had to watch that video.
What, dude? Don't act like I didn't ruin your day. You're farting content left and right. Like literally, I should be getting some residuals here from the entire Yu-Gi-Oh community. Sorry, this is ridiculous.
The content machine is crazy because like you made your video and then the reaction content and the reaction to the reaction content. It really is just one big spiral.
It's actually so it's funny. Someone in my chat just told me that on the Steam charts, the population of Master Duel went up quite a bit because I guess the video I made inspired people to go try it out.
I mean, I'm sure it has nothing to do with the new pack and the new event. It's definitely the Raron video.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I got fucking lied to. Whatever, I'm still counting. I'm going to use that as a marketing tactic for sponsorships.
Yeah, no,
it's too coincidental for me not to say it.
Oh, of course he has a Tim Hortons, dude. Holy.
There's one, I'm not even trolling, like a minute walk down the street. Not even kidding. Like it's right there. It's fucking blessed. Where are you from, by the way? I don't even know where you're from.
Do you know where Scotland is?
I could probably point it on the map, I think, yeah. So UK's there. I would assume that I gotta
look at him, he's pulling up a map, dude. Dude, you can't even like find the text box on a Yu-Gi-Oh card. How are you gonna look for Scotland?
What do you mean I can't find the text box? The text box is the entire card.
Well,
what are you talking about?
And he still doesn't look at it.
What's that? Sorry, what was the first question you asked me before I thought I would say hello?
I guess it was just like, what's your problem, basically, was my main question.
Okay, so let me explain my process here. Basically, let me explain what happened here, dude. I don't know about you, but as a content creator, especially in a card game, it is very easy to be stuck into a card game. I don't know how your chat is. I'm assuming you've streamed long enough that people probably watch you for you. And some of my chat definitely does, right? But I want to be a bigger than just a Hearthstone streamer, right?
That's not hard. Your game's dead.
Buddy, you're talking about Yu-Gi-Oh versus Hearthstone. I think Hearthstone's like infinitely more alive. At least we get new players, so I mean, I'm just gonna put that out there. Anyways, I figured why not play the game that is the most different than Hearthstone, like right at the bat. I did play it last year. I didn't remember really anything about it. I was really indifferent about it, so I figured I'd just play Yu-Gi-Oh, right? And in fact, I used the exact same tactic I use for every game, but just by playing the game and seeing how much I really liked it, right?
I guess you could describe that as playing the game, sure.
Yes, exactly. I was moving cards and I was in the screen. I promise you, I was playing the video game. All right. Then I realized about after 3 hours, this game sucks and I never want to play it again. But I kept going for the video because I was trying to get 10 hours to really experience Yu-Gi-Oh. Well, but I think it says a lot when after 4 hours, I couldn't even continue anymore.
Okay, well, you know, I'll use the defense that all Yu-Gi-Oh players give, and that's you were just playing it wrong. You were having fun in the wrong way.
See, unless is Yu-Gi-Oh just only about min-maxing? That's basically what it is, right? It's only about min-maxing. And there's no fun in the game.
Okay, in terms of when it comes to min-maxing, the issue is like in Hearthstone, you can get away with not min-maxing your deck, right? Because even if you don't min-max your deck and make it super fully like powerful and stuff like, you still get multiple turns of like action, which is what I was making as like one of my last points in the video was like there's like the illusion of play in games that have mana, because even though your deck is horrible and it sucks and your opponent's like 1,000 times better than you, you're still gonna have like 7 turns or something potentially, right? In Yu-Gi-Oh, if your opponent is significantly better than you, like you don't have a turn. There is no turn.
Can I ask you a question kind of related to this? When you play a video game, do you play the game? Like, do you want to play the game or do you just want to sit and watch?
I mean, listen, Yu-Gi-Oh is like half playing the game, half Twitch chat, right? You get to sit and watch someone else play while you complain to yourself internally. It really is like one of those spectator sports that sometimes has fan involvement, I think, right? It just depends on the decks.
Yeah, you didn't answer my question. Like, do you play a video game to play the game?
Dude, like, I'm gonna plead the fifth here. I'm just... Alright. This is entrapment.
Anyways, I think, like, okay, I wanted you to know, for everyone in Yu-Gi-Oh involved, by the way, my point of this video wasn't just the shit talk Yu-Gi-Oh. That was not what I wanted to do at all. I just wanted to play a different game. I
definitely interpreted that. Just for clarity, I never thought that that was what you were trying to do.
Okay, so when I played Yu-Gi-Oh, I just wasn't having fun because I felt like I just wasn't playing the game. And I think I can also just plead ignorance here that I didn't even get the chance to really play the game, right? Because it's like I didn't really do anything, right? I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. So to be fair, like my critique of it, the game is someone who just gave a first impression and tried to play the game for the first time. I don't think I realistically could tell you how good Yu-Gi-Oh is versus Hearthstone because I just didn't get to play the game, which says a lot, by the way, which says a lot. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm someone who plays card games for a living, man. Like that says a lot. It's kind of incredible. Now, that being said, Yu-Gi-Oh people also are super invested into their community, right? Because this game has been around for what, 20 years, 25 years. And this is a game that a lot of people grew up with their when they were children, right? Like I used to collect the cards. Like I had Dark Magicians and Blue as White Dragons, right? Like I had the cards that were sick. I remember holding them in my hand and being like, wow, this is the coolest thing I'll ever own in my life, right? But because I don't have that nostalgia and I haven't been playing the game for 20 years, when someone critiques Hearthstone, for example, I don't really care because I think the game does have flaws, right? But I noticed with the Yu-Gi-Oh scene that a second I was started criticizing, a lot of them were like, you just didn't play the game right.
I don't okay, listen, in all fairness, I feel like in modern gaming, in everything, if you criticize someone's like thing, then they're going to be offended. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like where we're at in life and in the generation that we are among, but it really is like you just say anything about like Diablo or Overwatch to like the diehard fans, like they will just like no, I refuse. Like you're just wrong. It's just it really is that way.
Yes, it's the thing is people really want to be like confirmed about what they're doing with their life, right? So it's the same thing with like Xbox and PlayStation, right? When you buy an Xbox or a PlayStation and someone says to you, let's say you bought an Xbox and someone says PS4 is better or PlayStation is better, you take it personally because it's like you made that decision.
It's a judgment upon your time and your decision making, basically.
Yes, exactly. So that's what I basically say. I think the sunk cost of a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players is a lot more in depth compared to like Hearthstone because Hearthstone is just a more casual game. Like you have to really put your time and effort into Yu-Gi-Oh, it seems like, right? Which is completely fair. I want to make it very clear. I don't think the game is bad. I just didn't get the chance to play it. Like that's basically what it comes down to, right? And sorry, go for it.
I think that and this is obviously a big issue with the game itself, is that it doesn't really show people how to play the game correctly. It sort of just drops you into the deep end of like modern current format. And I know you're gonna say like, dude, how the fuck what else is there to play other than the modern current format? That makes more sense because that's how it works in any other game. You just play the current format. But in Yu-Gi-Oh, like it really is unique that way because unfortunately, like the best way to start playing the game is with like lower power formats and with like worse cards that don't have a million, boxes on them, right? Like that is just kind of how it is.
Yeah. I listen, again, because I didn't really play the game, but I did look at, people kept telling me to look at like the Edison format or whatever.
Yes.
Which seems to be a much more casual experience at least. Yes. But when you play a game, right, you're not going to go play this side format. You're going to play the main format in almost every game that you play. That's
well, it's like, yes. Okay. So here's the thing. Like, okay, I feel really defensive because I have to like try and maneuver you to like the best way to play this game, which is not advertised really well and is not, fully functional at all in the video game that's been released. So you really have to like hunt and find the good way to play Yu-Gi-Oh, quote unquote, which is usually like because it's primarily a TCG that was digitalized, which is very important to understand. It's a social game. You're supposed to like go to a card, so you're supposed to be among people who help you, who talk to you, who socialize, right? But yeah, the game doesn't do a very good job at directing you to the right way to like really get those initial stepping stones because like some people can just jump into the harder part of the game, I suppose, to an extent, but at the same time, for the average person and you need something simpler, right? Like
yo, what the hell? So it's funny because a lot of people were saying like, oh, you need a guide or you need someone to coach to teach you, right? I'm not even kidding. For the last 10 years, I can't remember the first time, or I can't remember a time really where I looked up a guide to play a video game. I look up a guide when I'm trying to min-max a strategy or play optimally. So for instance, Minecraft's a really good example of this, right? Minecraft was super easy to get into, but there's no way you're going to know every crafting recipe. So then you look up a crafting recipe, right? That's something very specific, but I understand the fundamentals of the game, right? Where Yu-Gi-Oh didn't have that. So how do I play a game optimally right from the get-go if I don't go look up something and I don't go look up how to actually play this game optimally and what format to play and what deck to play, right? That is, in my opinion, horrible game design. And I don't think it's Yu-Gi-Oh's fault. I think it's just Master Duel not providing a great path in order for someone to actually realize what the optimal thing is. Because when you play Hearthstone, right, or even Magic Arena is a really good example of this. Have you ever played Magic for the reference?
Yes, a couple times.
Okay, so Magic's a really in-depth game. It's very nuanced, right? And compared to Hearthstone, especially, there's a lot more mechanics that I just don't understand. But Magic did a really good job of introducing you to the format, or introducing you to how Magic plays, to the tapping, how you draw lands, et cetera, et cetera. It starts off with one thing and then expanded into the colors, so you understand how the colors work. I didn't even need to know how to play cards or anything. It just, here's what those colors do. This is how you learn. And then expands even further to show you that, oh, these colors can actually work together to make even more archetypes, right? And then it expands even further, and then it goes to you, okay, now that you understand the game, you can go play standard, you can go play what is that, limited, you can go play the brawl. There's just a bunch of different options for you. Yu-Gi-Oh is like, hey idiot, good luck.
Okay, so here, right. Well, I think first of all, you say Yu-Gi-Oh, right? But what you really mean is Master Duel, and
Master Duel,
and
for sure.
For a lot of players, like, we do sometimes say, like, hey, this game's still in beta. But anyway, I gotta ask, like, a question here. You played through some of the solo modes, didn't you?
Yes.
What did you think of them?
Well, in the video, I told you, like, the first, like, couple of them were for a game that was released 15 years ago. Because my problem with the game was it told me how to, like, set a card. It's told me how to do attack and defense position. But in every single one of my games, it didn't show up, right? Now, you could make the claim. I think I skipped the whole section of it, which is completely fair. You could be like, oh, you didn't go play the tutorial, right? But to me, I play games, especially PvP games, to go against other people.
Which tutorial exactly did you was it Duel Strategy you skipped? Like the second one, right?
I did the first 3, and then I skipped the fourth one.
And you didn't learn shit?
It's not that I didn't learn shit. It's just I didn't. What it showed me wasn't even relevant to what I went against, right? You saw the video, bro. That first rank game, like, scarred me. Like, it was a miserable experience. And I don't even know what I lost to. Now, you could make the claim, right? Like, you should have read your cards preemptively going into a matchup, or you're like, so you understand how to play the deck. Also, I want to make this very clear, because I'm sure a lot of people only watched the video and didn't watch the streams. I have to make the video entertaining, right? That was the first and foremost thing I do in every video, is to make sure it's enjoyable to watch, right? I don't want to make a video of me just reading the cards. So there was, like, a little section of it where I was watching, like, a YouTube short of how to play the Solomon Great deck. I think that's how you pronounce it. Where I was learning about it, and I did read the cards, but I didn't show that in the video because no one wants to watch that, right? So it's not like I didn't give it a shot. It's just, I'm not going to spend, like, I don't have the attention span. I don't think you do either, realistically, to, like, spend 35 minutes reading every single card to make sure I understand. Also, I'm someone who really learns from just playing cards. And Hearthstone, like, this is why I love Hearthstone so much, because if I fail as a Hearthstone player, I understand immediately what I did wrong. Magic also showed me this yesterday, right? I made a misplay, and I'm like, oh, I understand why I lost that game, right? Yu-Gi-Oh, because you have to know your cards to actually reflect on why you're losing the game, is way too much, and it's way too time consuming.
Okay, so here's the reason for all of this, I feel, right?
Sure.
And it really just comes down to, like, the resource system, right? So if you can imagine this, right? Imagine Hearthstone, where you get into as a new player. You've never, like, really read any of the cards or anything like that. Imagine you get into Hearthstone and you just have no mana. Like, you hop into it, or rather unlimited mana. Like, you wouldn't know what to do with your, like, 6-card hand or whatever it is, right? Like, you just, right? So that's
completely fair.
So that's what Yu-Gi-Oh is like. It's like, mechanically, the gameplay stuff of Yu-Gi-Oh is really simple in terms of, like, the summon, the phase, etc., right? But it's the card text and how all of these different cards synergize with one another is what makes it complicated, right? Because fundamentally, Yu-Gi-Oh is actually pretty simple and easy. It's when you pick up a deck and it's an archetype. It has a win condition and a combo line that functions within itself. In other games, you are limited to X number of cards per turn. In Yu-Gi-Oh, you almost have access to your entire deck or extra deck at any one moment in time, turn 1. And because of that, that's why it seems so much more complicated. Because mechanically, I think it's simple, but it is because of how modern card design, and without set rotation, and without a resource system, you are basically just playing Hearthstone without mana.
So you're definitely not wrong, right? And I don't disagree with you at all. Like, I'm fully agreeing with you that getting into Yu-Gi-Oh is a hard task, right? It's a very intense task, and that is not a good thing. You're making it seem like it is a good thing, but
I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying it is what it is. Like that is kind of where we're at.
I get. So you also made the case of like Yu-Gi-Oh is a game that you want to play with your friends in real life, right? That it's a game that is meant to be played in real life, right? But the unfortunate reality of today we're in is that most players are going to be shown Yu-Gi-Oh for the very first time through a digital space, right? There's not really like a question there. Like Hearthstone is a really good introduction of people are willing to play card games if they don't have to go anywhere, right? Or if it's just on any platform they want to play. Where Hearthstone does a really good job of showcasing how to play the game for any player at any skill level, Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have that, right? And I'm someone who, again, I play card games for a living, man. Like, and I had no issues with Runeterra, Magic, Hearthstone, Marvel Snap. I'm sure you played literally all of these, right? And I'm sure you found it really easy, right? Because they did a very good job of introducing you to the game. Yu-Gi-Oh, as a core gameplay, right? Or the core gameplay of Yu-Gi-Oh, I should say, is intense, and it can be very complicated. It can be something that people will have to spend a lot of time investing their time into. But unfortunately, people don't want to do that, right? And if I'm in a prime example of an average player who plays Yu-Gi-Oh for the very first time, most people are going to be like me, where they play it for 2 hours and then they ask themselves, why am I playing this over a different card game? There's other card games I can play, right? So I'm sure Yu-Gi-Oh, again, this is very ignorant on my part because I didn't get to experience the real like gameplay of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Because I didn't understand what the fuck was going on, right? And it's very evident in the video that I made that like I'm so fucking lost when I played this game. And it's not like I didn't try. I didn't go in there being disingenuous, like I'm gonna just fuck around and just make fun of Yu-Gi-Oh. Like I legitimately gave it my all.
Okay.
Right?
Just as a question, I swear to God, I promise I'm not trying to diss you.
Sure.
How good are you at like Hearthstone?
My peak, I hit rank 1 legend.
Rank 1 legend?
Yeah, and I have a photo if you're really curious.
Okay,
like I did.
all right. So, because I'm just trying to understand and figure out why have your skills not transferred over?
Well, it's because unfortunately for Yu-Gi-Oh, there is no mana system. One of the biggest things I wish I mentioned in that video was having a mana system lets you understand when you should play your cards, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I see a 1 mana card in Yu-Gi-Oh, or not Yu-Gi-Oh, in Hearthstone, right? It's very evident that a majority of the time, depending on the archetype, I just play that on turn 1, right? Obviously, there's some like more nuanced takes there, like you could hold a removal or whatever, etc., right? But in Yu-Gi-Oh, there's none of that skills. Like there's no way for me to really understand, like, oh, this is a card I want to play in the early game, right? There's no way for me to understand that. I have to understand the whole deck in order for me to understand what card I need to play first.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So that's what it boils down to, and that's what the crux of the situation is, right? Because Hearthstone tells you what cards you can or can't use immediately, whereas Yu-Gi-Oh, like I said, almost every card in your deck and extra with a good enough hand is accessible at any one moment, pretty much.
Yes. Yes.
And I think, like, as a modern sort of side effect of the game, it's what it's developed into because of the concept of archetypes. Archetypes didn't really become sort of, I want to say, like, part of the game until, like, 10 years in to like Yu-Gi-Oh, and then now over time, because of power creep and stuff, you just have a group of cards that all function with each other. And unfortunately, if you want to play modern, you don't just have to learn the mechanics and the basics of how you actually set and attack and blah blah blah. You have to understand and learn the actual synergies of the archetype itself. So I think like the simplest thing to do is to jump into a game of Yu-Gi-Oh that doesn't have archetypes, and obviously you've heard of Edison and how people have suggested it. That would be the best thing and best suggestion I would have. Obviously, that isn't offered in Macedo, and that's not a way to do it. You would, unfortunately, the reality is in Yu-Gi-Oh, you have to go out and find it.
Still, yeah, that's not good though, right?
I mean, it's not ideal.
Again, I think like people are upset.
But I will caveat this, by the way, by saying like some people do just jump in, right? I will say 100%. The worst example, like, I don't know who suggested to give you Salmon Great. Like, I don't know how link climbing.
Most of my chat gave me that. By the way,
I don't know how Yu-Gi-Oh players need to stop suggesting link decks, please. Like, that is not a good introduction to the game. You know, I think if you just continue with Dragon Maid, you would have been able to understand, right? I mean, did you understand Dragon Maids after a while? Like, you have like this gameplay loop of, you know, you gain a resource, you go battle phase, they transform. Did you get that eventually?
I think I understood the win condition of the deck. Like if that's what you're asking. I couldn't tell you every nuance of the deck, but I understand the win condition of it. Absolutely.
Okay.
I completely agree. I think I agree
What did
with
you
that.
think of
Let
the
me ask
Dragon
you-
Maid deck? What did you
I
make
mean, it
of
was fine. It was fine. I don't again, I couldn't really tell you if are you asking me if it was fun? What are you asking me? Like if it was
Yeah,
good?
like just your experience, like with that deck specifically, because I feel like maybe it was not really glossed over, but you sort of spent most of the time talking about I guess like how fucking impossible it was to play Salad.
Yeah. I think it was fine. I'm glad that like that deck was definitely easier to understand than the other one.
Okay. Was it
because
fun?
it just played. I wouldn't be able to answer that question. What? There's no way. I actually had a. If you ever get to talk, I don't know if you get to talk to Konami at all. I'm assuming you don't, unfortunately. But if they ever ask you for how we can make this game easier for players to learn, here's a great suggestion. On the main page of Yu-Gi-Oh, where you get to pick your first deck, tell them to write a little keyword that says this is a good starting deck, or like pick this deck if you're new, something like that. Because it would have helped me a lot if I didn't have to go to a third-party service, or if someone doesn't have chat for them to tell you what deck they should pick first.
Just to clarify, because I've done a few
Sure.
like sponsors on Hearthstone, and I always advertise that you get basically a meta deck for signing up. Is that is mostly true, isn't it?
You get a lot of cards at the start, and they give you a full deck from the previous expansion, which would allow you to make a brand new deck if you wanted to.
And you
the
don't
deck that they
have to
give
like you don't have to like research how like where to get the card. Like they give you, it's made.
Yeah, it's made. They give you pre-made decks, and you get to play with all. There's like 9 of them they give you at the start, and then after a week, you get to pick one that you get to keep. And while you play with those decks, you're also earning other cards and legendaries and whatever, right? And dust.
So
for you to
Yu-Gi-Oh!
craft
So the issue is like Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't have an equivalent for that. There is no, and at least in Master Duel, there's nothing that comes to you that is just like pre-constructed and basically ready to go. Like if you pick up any of those structure decks in the Master Duel store, I don't know, maybe you'll hit like silver at best or something. They're not really designed to be like. First of all, you have to buy 3 of them, which I mean, you only knew that because you were told it. So right.
Yes. Yeah. I think I had a huge advantage, right? Because I had Twitch chat or chat in general, right? You like the average player doesn't have that resource, which I think is a very interesting thing, right? Because people are telling me like you should have gotten a coach, because that's what people in chat were telling me. But imagine you didn't have that knowledge, like you would have been so fucking lost. Let me ask you a question. When you played Hearthstone, right? Did you understand it from just playing the game?
Yeah, but I don't know if that's a fair question, because I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh player, right? Like I'm going to get it. It's just like
Sure.
dude,
But
you need to understand, like, rank 1 legend in Hearthstone is like plat 3 in Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Like, like we're a different breed, literally.
I think that's completely fair. But the reason I asked that question is, right, you can see the reverse. Just because Hearthstone's an easier game doesn't make it like a simpler
Absolutely.
game, right?
I get it. Yeah,
it's just
for sure.
It's an easier game to get into, right?
And you made a good
Did you play
point.
Marvel's-
Complexity doesn't equal, better,
Yeah,
right?
and I was actually gonna bring this point up. You ever played chess before?
Yeah, it's a very simple game at its core, right?
Yes, exactly. But as you continue going, it is one of the most complicated games. It's so nuanced. It's absolutely ridiculous. But chess is so easy to get into, right? And that is the dream design of any game. A game that's very simple and introduces yourself very easily to anyone who wants to play it. Because I could show a 5-year-old how to play chess. Would he beat the best player in the world? Absolutely not, right? And there's no way he would understand, like, I don't even know what any of the terms are in chess, if I'm going to be honest. Like, he probably wouldn't know how to checkmate somebody. But the more you learn about chess, the more in depth it gets, and you can keep on going and going and going, right?
But here's the good thing about Yu-Gi-Oh though, because like you could be a total noob and beat like a world champion with like the right cards in Yu-Gi-Oh, even off the bat, right? Like if you summon Inspector Border, you're in a really good spot. Like
would a new player
decks.
know that? Would a new player know that?
They probably have to go on Google and type in stun deck or some shit.
Yeah. So honestly, like again, I don't think that. I think a lot of people are taking this as I'm attacking Yu-Gi-Oh directly, and I don't think that's the case. I had a miserable time with it.
I mean, it is an attack, but it's not unwarranted. Is I guess like the way to look at it.
It's justified. I think it's justified. I'm also basing this off my personal experience, right? I'm sure other people had a really great experience with Yu-Gi-Oh the first time because it was right up their alley, and there's someone who's like, I'm gonna go look up a deck immediately before I even get into the game. But I think the average person plays it like me. I don't know about you. Like, you could probably ask your chat. I'm really curious to see what your chat says, because I asked my chat this the other day. How many people will look up a guide the second they start playing a game? I think it's very unlikely people do, but I'm very curious to see
I never have personally. You know,
Exactly.
but some people do
Okay.
it, right? But here's the thing though, right? So obviously, I agree with basically everything you're saying, but at the same time, conversely, do you think it's bad that a game is just fundamentally more complicated?
No, I don't think so. I think complicated games have a niche, and it's important to have those type of games because people really like them. But I think a game, especially if it's trying to reach a broader niche, which I think Yu-Gi-Oh is trying to do, especially with the release of Master Duel. I don't know about Duel Links. I've never played it. I'm sure it's a little bit easier. They should at least try to make the game easy to get into, right? I think the reason why Hearthstone is the most successful online card game is because it's the easiest one to get into. It's also just like I think has the best experience.
Okay, well,
just from
hang
a
on. We're not
gameplay
trying to
perspective.
like lift weights or anything here, but that is not true. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel is bigger than Hearthstone,
No
right?
way.
Right? I
No
think
way.
I think it's
No
technically
way.
Duel Links if we're going by like revenue share or some shit, isn't it?
I think Hearthstone, the average Hearthstone player doesn't look up YouTube videos or goes online or anything like that. Hearthstone is a very casual game. I think it's very easy. I think Yu-Gi-Oh may probably look like it's a bigger game on Steam comparatively, just because people have to look up guides and they have to look at Google Trends. But like, there is no fucking way that the average Hearthstone player looks on the guide. Also, to be fair though, Hearthstone has Battlegrounds, which is probably really like making the metrics a little bit more slanted.
That's one of the biggest
Um,
issues with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is there is no other way to play the game. Online, you have constructed ranked current format. That's it. There's no alternative. There's no draft mode. I don't know how is Arena still a thing? I kind of enjoyed Arena when I played it a little bit. I think something like
Arena
that
is still a thing. Yeah, it's still there.
is it popular? Do people play it?
It's still popular, but recently, I don't know if you heard, Blizzard is no longer in China. So
Okay.
a lot of the people in China are now like botting and like just absolutely rolling people in Arena right now. So it's not
How does
great.
a bot roll in Arena?
I I couldn't tell you.
Dude,
It's
that's
just
how
not a
shit
good.
your game is. That a fucking bot can beat
Whoa,
people.
it's a
Dude,
different experience.
Dude,
It's a
go on
different
my
experience.
YouTube and type in Farfa bot tournament, right? These bots could not beat a 3-year-old. I'm just saying, right? Your game can
Well,
be piloted by NPCs. Ugh.
It's not. Listen, I'm agreeing with you that being like having bots in the game is definitely negative, but I think it showcases how easy Hearthstone is as a game, like to get into if bots can play the game at a pretty good level, right? Listen, people always call me copium and whatever they want to say, but like Hearthstone is a very easy to get into, but it does have a lot of nuance as you get to the highest ranks in the game. Like there's a lot of decisions you
Yeah,
have to
for
make.
sure.
I'm not saying it's as maybe as in depth as Yu-Gi-Oh or as in depth as Magic, but when people call Hearthstone a baby game, like they're probably fucking gold, like or silver. Like there's no way. Like Hearthstone can be a very complicated game. It seems so much easier because I do my turn and then you do your turn, right? Where Yu-Gi-Oh Magic, there's the interaction between players. So it's completely fair to call Hearthstone a baby game where it's so easy to get into and they can have bots and shit. But I think like at its core, at its highest level, there's some very complicated mechanics in Hearthstone.
And
there
also,
has been decks
yeah, I
that
mean, in
showcase
all
that.
seriousness, like I love that game so much. Like I really enjoyed it whenever I played it. The only reason I don't really play Hearthstone is just because like I just don't have the time for it. Personally, just because of like stream and doing YouTube and stuff, I generally just don't have time to play it. But whenever I did play, I really enjoyed it. And even when I tried to like play a lot off stream and like I genuinely wasn't good enough to hit legend. I couldn't. I did give it a shot and I didn't hit legend, right? So there absolutely is nuance and so much more skill factor at the top end for sure. But Yu-Gi-Oh, like just going back to like why it is the way it is, and I guess it's not too much of a justification. I'm not trying to say like you have to do homework to like be good at the game or something, but I just think like Yu-Gi-Oh, like you know, if difficulty level was a thing, like Hearthstone's a 1, Magic's a 2, and Yu-Gi-Oh's like a 9 or something, right?
Sure.
You have to like go up to that really high point of just learning things as an individual. But what I think a lot of people say, and we all, I mean, I guess we play because we like it. Like Yu-Gi-Oh is really good once you get over that initial hurdle, but obviously that hurdle currently is way too big.
Yes, that is the fundamental issue. I think it says a lot, man, when someone like me who play cards game a living can't really understand and grasp Yu-Gi-Oh in that amount of time. That's concerning because again, the average player would be. I'm sorry, chat. This isn't copium either. You'd probably be worse than me. I'm just gonna put it out there. Unless you play Yu-Gi-Oh already, it's just ridiculous. Also, I think it's like another really big thing to say that Yu-Gi-Oh is the exception to the rule, where like you need to look at a guide in order for you to understand it, right? I haven't had to look. I've been playing Magic for 5 hours and I haven't had to look up a single thing, right? I played hard when I started with Hearthstone. I didn't have to look up a single thing. With Marvel Snap, did you play Marvel Snap by the way?
I haven't played Marvel, but I think I tried the DC one. So
Oh,
I've played Hearthstone, I've played Magic, I've tried DC, I've tried Slay the Spire, if that counts as a card game, I guess.
Slay the Spire, yeah, that's also. I guarantee for Slay the Spire either, you didn't have to look up a guide. You just played the game.
Yeah, it was really fun. I enjoyed it.
It was great. It was great. Marvel Snap's the exact same way. Also, in case chat's curious, I did hit the highest rank in Marvel Snap as well, which is infinite. So like speaks to my like, how I am as a card player. I really wish, dude, I liked Yu-Gi-Oh. I really wish I did because I'm sure the game could be really fun. And I'm sure like the crazy shit you can do in that game is awesome. Like one of the best parts about Hearthstone is when they do tavern balls, which allows you to cheat mana. Like there has been tavern balls that's like every third spell you cast costs 0 mana. And you could do some crazy shit in that game. And it's
not just
for a while.
us as a brawl.
Yes. Yeah, that's actually what it's called.
Oh, nice.
There was another brawl that was like all your spells cost health instead of mana, which was also just absolutely ape shit. But it's fun.
Okay.
Because like when you do that for a little bit and you understand the game, because Hearthstone's easy to get into, there's crazy shit you can do. But like again, Yu-Gi-Oh is missing that like jumping step. Where you're like, okay, this is how you play the game. This is how actual Yu-Gi-Oh is played. Now you play the game. They're missing that middle part, and I don't even know how they solve that. I don't even know where to begin. But that was the problem with Yu-Gi-Oh, right? And
so I think it comes down to the root of the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh is a trading card game designed in 1998, and it just hasn't translated as well digitally to the modern day.
That's probably also fair. Yeah,
I don't think it's impossible. They absolutely should be doing a better job of it, and it has the potential to do a good job of it. But it's important to recognize like a game that is fundamentally designed to be social with people at a table, is maybe will just never be a perfect model digitally, right?
That's probably fair in its current state. But they can make like a very specific format for Master Duel that would like make it easier, right? So my chat keeps saying this to me, like, why don't they rotate cards, right? Like, how the fuck is anyone supposed to remember 20 years of cards?
You don't need to. That's the thing. Because okay, put it this way. It's like it really is just like an illusion of choice. Like, yes, I could hypothetically play Mechanical Chaser. Why would I? Like, you're not going to play that. You know what I mean? So like
because of the power level of cards, though.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Because like you're just going to play the more newer ones because they're just fundamentally better, and those are the really.
So have you ever played Wild in Hearthstone? Do you know what that is? You know what Wild is?
I think I tried Jade Druid once.
Okay, so Wild basically is what Yu-Gi-Oh is, like the standard Yu-Gi-Oh format. Wild is literally every single card in Hearthstone, and you can do whatever you want with it. Hearthstone has also gotten to the point where they have to ban cards because there is fundamental issues with the format if they don't get rid of those cards, right? So
what do they ban? Is it like Barnes or something is banned or
no? Like I'm trying to think of like a really good example here.
Some Yogg
there was a card called the Demon Seed, which was released a couple years ago, and basically, without really explaining the whole card, the end result was the damage that you deal to yourself on your turn is done to your opponent instead, which counted to fatigue. And the problem with Wild is because there's a critical mass of cards. There's bonkers ass decks, right? Like there's insane decks. They ended up unbanning Demon Seed because they ended up nerfing it. It was still in standard at the time, so they can make it significantly worse once it rotated. But they don't. Hearthstone doesn't have the technology apparently to like separate it unless it's by design, which it probably is, just for like clarity of cards. But that's my point. Like no, a lot of people don't get into Wild because it's just fucking crazy, right? And it's much easier to learn the game from a standard perspective when there's way less cards because there's not a critical mass or of cards that make a broken deck, right? And that's probably what happens with Yu-Gi-Oh! Because even most of the time, even if a card was released 15 years ago, and you could probably clarify this, right? There's probably cards that were released 15 years ago that are playable now because there's a deck that supports the archetype. Or
yeah, 100%. Like every couple of formats. I mean, that's one of the cool things about Yu-Gi-Oh! I think is you will find random cards that suddenly become meta-defining. Like one of the biggest examples right now is Book of Moon, Enemy Controller. These are cards literally printed like probably older than like most of the people in our Twitch chat, and they're like some of them are like 3-ofs today, right? And
yes,
I don't know how you feel about that, but I think that's really cool. And it really
I
tests
think
your like your knowledge of the game to be able to go back and pick like random monsters that are suddenly support. Like there was like Sprite that came out, and it was like, okay, Mannequin Cat summons any level 2 monster from the deck. So people like, totally unhinged people like Josh would go and like research every level 2 monster ever printed in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. But I think it's not a great idea if you want to have new players enter the game, right? There's a reason why Hearthstone has a rotating format other than like the money perspective. Obviously, you just make more money if you have rotating formats. But most people are going to try out standard because it's not nearly as overwhelming as it is with wild, right? People don't want to think about every single card. At least the average player probably doesn't. What? And Yu-Gi-Oh is cool in the sense that like because people are so invested into the game, it's much easier to expect them to want to. Sorry, I'm saying this wrong. People in the Yu-Gi-Oh community have been invested for a very long time, right? I would say the average. What do you think the average player has been playing the game for? Like 5, 6 years, 7 years?
I feel like there's
Even
so many
longer?
people who started. There's been like a boom like every X number of years. Like there's been people who've like who played at the start. There was like a boom during like 5D, so like 2010, and then there was another boom in 2014, and then 2019, and then COVID. So there's certain periods and formats that sort of just created new players, I'd say. But maybe on average,
Okay.
I'd say like 5+.
Okay, so 5+ is actually not that bad considering Hearthstone's almost been out for 10 years. That's probably about the same. But the thing is, when people join Hearthstone nowadays, they go right into standard, right? Which is just because the wild format's very overwhelming. Where in Yu-Gi-Oh, I imagine it's the exact same thing because that's the same thing I had, right? And I didn't even scratch the surface on what Yu-Gi-Oh has to offer. So
Okay,
imagine.
question: what would it take for you to like try it again, or go?
Oh, nothing. I'm not fucking playing that game. Are you out of your mind? What are you talking about?
What is like the main thing that's stopping you from playing it? Is it just reading the cards, Rauron? Because I can read them to you. I can read Mighty Master to you. It's not a problem. We can do like an ASMR stream. Like genuinely, what would it take for you to like?
That's the content. That's the true content. ASMR Farfa in my ears explaining cards to me while I'm playing them.
Because
I think it's just
okay. Question: tell me what Kitchen
sure.
does. What is Kitchen's effect?
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Oh my god, dude! This is the problem. What does Gazelle do?
I think it like summoned a minion from my deck or something, or it helped me special summon
for
another
4
minion from
hours.
my
He
extra deck.
thinks Gazelle is E-Telly. Okay, anyway, back to the question.
I don't even know what the fuck E-Tally is, bro. Like,
What? Okay, so back to the question. What would you do? Like, what needs to happen for someone like you to play, or to like push through?
like if I started from ground zero again without having any information,
Even
or
just
from,
like where
Bobby's
you're at
picking
right
up?
now, where like a lot of people probably reach a similar stage as you, where it's like, okay, I've tried this for a few hours, I'm just hella confused and overwhelmed. I don't know what's going on.
Magic Arena does this, and I think it's a very good idea. Is a queue system that is only for new players, where you only go against people who have
That
just
sounds
basically
really
started the game.
funny. Wait, do people make new accounts and Smurf on it?
I didn't go against any Smurfs. As far
That
as I'm
sounds
concerned.
hilariously good
But
content. Sorry. Anyway, continue.
See, for like someone who's
Maybe I should
learning
get
the
really
game,
good at Magic and do that.
That's so ruthless, man.
So Yu-Gi-Oh has a casual mode, by the way, but most people just
believe me, I tried it. I tried it. I was there.
Some people just go, they just practice their tier meta deck, So
yeah, I don't know if that was considered casual. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was either. Let me tell you what my casual experience was. I either won on turn 1 or I lost on turn 1.
But that's a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh. Welcome. That's the experience. Like, glad to have you here. What do you mean? Like, that's the game.
I do think that having like a queue system of people who had just started playing the game, even though it may come off as like not the average Yu-Gi-Oh experience in the grand scheme of the game, is just going to be better because at least people can feel progression and they can feel like they're winning or they're understanding why they're losing. Right. That's really important. Like progression is a huge part of games and why people continue to play them. Because the best thing about Hearthstone, in my opinion, is when you lose a game, it's really easy to understand, like, or you just blame it on random, like, which is completely fair too. But at least you understand why you lost. Where in Yu-Gi-Oh, he played a bunch of cards and I lose. That's basically what I understood from those games, which doesn't feel great. And if you're a brand new player and you're
if you
just
read them,
Yu-Gi-Oh
you would know.
Listen, dude.
If you literally, dude, I don't know what to say to that. If you read the cards, you would know what killed you. Like, you would know what's happening. Like, what do you mean?
Did you not watch the video? Every time my opponent played the card, I was like, but then he played another card, and I'm like, what the fuck? How am I supposed to read this fast enough? And he keeps playing cards.
Bro, just
like, what do you want me to do? Like, Actually, the best thing Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel could do is just have an AI every time a card's printed, just go pff, like really, really fast, just so you can hear it in your ears.
What's
Just
your
so it's
thoughts on
really, really
keywords? Because I guess like you only really know keywords, so you don't know what the alternative is. But
I
like,
think keywords are very necessary for a game, especially the one like Yu-Gi-Oh! To introduce players to the game. I don't know how Yu-Gi-Oh! Would do it. I don't even know where they begin, especially because there's 20 years worth of cards in their standard format. They would have to go back and iterate through all of them. It would be fucking miserable. And I guarantee you, Konami does not have the time for that, or they don't want to. Because maybe they had they had a board meeting, right? I guarantee you, this is how the board meeting went. Hey, I think we should. We're having a little bit of trouble getting new players into our game, and then there's that one guy, like that meme, like we should add keywords, and then they just push him out of the office. We're like, we're not doing that shit. Get out of here. Like, there's no fucking
one of
way.
the fundamental issue with Yu-Gi-Oh is like it's keyword doesn't explain enough about what a card does. Like some cards in Yu-Gi-Oh like can be keyworded quite simply, like piercing or something, for example. But Yu-Gi-Oh, there's so much like once per turn, hard once per turn, activate, or is it actually use, not activate? Different steps in the damage step, etc. Like there's so much depth to what a card could possibly. Is it on normal summon? Is it on special? Like when and if. Like there is so much complexity. Like they would have to probably uproot the entire structure of the game and just how cards work, and then start again for what card effects really mean. So I think it'd be too much work to really implement it in Yu-Gi-Oh.
How does Duel Force do it, or is it the exact same thing?
How's what?
Like Duel Force? What's the mobile game? The other one?
The DC one?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, not the DC game. The mobile game. The like, isn't there like what's the mobile game, chat?
Are you talking about Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah. Hold
Duel
on.
Links?
It's on Steam. Is it Duel Links? Yeah. What does Duel Links do? What does Duel Links do? That's
Oh, do you want to see a skill in Duel Links? Like just what? For context, a skill is like a thing you can activate in Duel Links, like generally whenever. Like so, the game started out with like your dark monsters have 200 more attack. Now skills are like they're books. Like yeah.
So it's also just a fucking
it's the same thing. Like Duel Links is just the same as current Yu-Gi-Oh, except there's less zones. It's the same card text. Like the cards all work the same. If you see a Yu-Gi-Oh card, yeah.
Wow. I thought they would have made it slightly different. I guess they just didn't care.
I mean, the closest different thing is Rush Duel, which is coming soon. You could try Rush Duel when it comes out on the 28th of September. It might be worth exploring. The Rush Duel is basically like a weird kind of amalgamation between Speed Duel and current Yu-Gi-Oh! It's basically, you have less zones. You can normal summon as much as you want. The card text is significantly small. I don't know how it is these days, at least from what I've seen, there's like a lot less text and stuff on the cards. It is a very different way to play the game, and I think it could be worth trying out. There's definitely going to be more back and forth because when you go to your next turn in Yu-Gi-Oh! In Rush Duel, you draw until you have 5 cards in hand. And it's one of the suggestions that people have made over the course of like the last months and years that, hey, maybe Rush Duel is like a good way to introduce people into Yu-Gi-Oh! So it could be worth exploring and trying out when it's released. It is literally designed for children and new players. So listen, buddy, if you can't handle Rush Duel, like,
my time is
listen, it is what it is. You tried.
Here's here's what we'll do. How about this? I'm not gonna play Master Duel again. I probably will never play that fucking game again. Holy shit.
No.
Until there's some drastic changes. But when Rush Duel comes out, you said September 28th.
I think so. Yeah.
That's a pretty good time for me, considering that Hearthstone's probably gonna be doing fucking nothing during that time. I'll try it. Okay. And if it ends up being more fun, maybe I'll give Master Duel a chance. But if I end up hating it, I think I'm just fucking miserable, and I'll just never play Yu-Gi-Oh! Again in my life.
So just one little piece of advice: start logging into Duel Links at least once a day until September, so that you can get some gems, or prepare your credit card.
Is it it's the same account? I'm guessing, like how Pokemon does it. I think Pokemon does the same thing.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's not your Master Duel account. It's the different game. It's like Duel Links you have to get. It's on Steam.
I have to get Duel Links. Okay.
Yeah, it's on Steam. Okay. And you can like connect your ACGN thing to the account and stuff. Give it a shot. See what you think. It is it's Yu-Gi-Oh! As a theme, but it is pretty different. There is like, it's pretty different. And like I said, it's made for kids. Okay, so like if you start fucking that up, your chat can spam "made kid game." By the way, so just saying.
By the way,
just saying.
It's Duel Links is it? I'm guessing it's a lot more expensive than Master Duel, right?
Okay, so imagine if you played Hearthstone, but you didn't have you couldn't disenchant and you couldn't craft.
Oh, that's fucking miserable.
No, it's not, dude, because you eventually get it. It's like in a box. Imagine you buy a box.
That's what Marvel Snap does. Wait, that's what Marvel Snap does.
Wait, really?
Holy shit.
That's
Yeah,
insane.
Marvel Snap. My problem with Marvel Snap as a game is the monetization system of it, because it's like a mobile game first and then a card game second.
Oh shit.
Right?
Okay.
And you can't craft new cards unless you have a very specific currency, which costs a fuck ton. Do you know how much a new Marvel Snap card cost if it's like Series 5, which is the highest? It's like $80, like just for the card alone.
Yeah,
Which
I'm
is
sitting here on thinking about Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. Like, how much is a thrust these days, chat? Like, one thrust?
Well,
Holy fuck.
but Yu-Gi-Oh!
This guy's
I'm assuming
complaining
you're
about $80 for one staple. Holy fuck, dude.
But you're talking about a card game where you can sell cards, right? Like you can sell that card if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't fucking sell Marvel Snap cards, bro. They're in your fucking pocket. They're there forever.
That's
right?
it is obviously absurd.
Yeah, which it's unfortunate, but the game is really good. But I guess it's the same system as Duel Links, where you literally just can't craft any cards. You just have to hope you open it or have enough money to actually buy it. And it's fucking ridiculous. Like one of my best friends from Hearthstone, his name's Dexter. He's a huge Marvel Snap streamer now. Guy's probably put like $10,000 into the game. The game's been out for like a year.
$10,000, huh? How much have I spent on Duel Links in my Stu chat? Anyway, I was gonna ask you like other stuff, but I feel like you just wouldn't what. Like, I was gonna ask like, what's your thoughts on Maxi as a new player?
Maxi, that's that card that like you draw a card or something whenever your opponent summons something.
Yeah. Let's see. I want to get the opinion of someone on Maxi after 4 hours of gameplay.
I gonna be honest. I think I played it once. Like so, I
So
don't
it
know
sucks,
if it really
right?
made a difference. Wouldn't it? I'm assuming it's a really good card, isn't it?
Clueless. Yes.
Is it bad?
It's a 91% usage rate.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense
In
because
every
everyone's
deck in the
fucking
game.
summoning nonsense.
Do you want to know a
it
fun
makes
little
total sense, right? It makes total sense. Like if everyone's fucking summoning 20 monsters on turn 1, like I might as well just draw some cards with it.
Yep, exactly. Did you craft it?
Yeah, I did. Chat made me craft it. It was in the meta deck that someone gave me. So I was there. Maxi's game warping. Why is it game warping though? Because you just draw like handbrakes and stuff.
Okay, so the problem with Maxi is that it's a fundamentally like Yu-Gi-Oh is a fundamentally like special summon driven game. Even like the most basic like simple like monkey decks will special summon like once, right? So at worst case scenario, Maxi cycles 1 for 1, or it draws like 30 cards. Like worst case scenario, it just cycles itself. Worst case.
Oh, holy shit.
But best case,
and there's no max hand size, right? You just keep drawing.
No, there isn't max hand size when you drop it on your opponent, but then when it gets to your turn, you discard down to 6. But by that point, you should have killed them, so fine.
Oh, so the concept is you play it, and while they're playing, you just stop them from playing the game. And
yeah, so you can draw like more hand traps and stuff. That's like the logic, I suppose.
I see. So there is more interaction.
Do you know what hand traps are? Did you ever like use any or?
I couldn't name one. That's what you're saying. Like, I basically from Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm pretty sure I blacked out, bro. Like, all I really remember is just getting absolutely rolled or rolling somebody. Like,
you know, I'm so shocked that we haven't had hand traps in Hearthstone. Like, imagine you could float mana and then just activate a 1 mana like disruption from your hand.
I don't know how Hearthstone would do it because you can't interact on your opponent's side. I guess there's secrets.
It's exactly like Magic, right? Like Magic has instants that you can use if you float your mana.
Yeah, but Magic you can interact on your opponent's side. Hearthstone you can't. Like once you end the turn, you're not allowed to play the game until it's back to your side.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So,
like, if they could make a card that lets you do that, what do you think of that?
I don't think they'll ever do it because that just changes the game mechanics. But they kind of do have it. They have secrets. Like secrets is like you put it on your side, and then your opponent has to play around it. But it's not really the same thing. That's the thing. It'd be interesting. Hearthstone has tried to do like hand trap as stuff over like the past couple of years. They've taken a lot more risks recently, but nothing like Maxi or like just countering a card. They haven't done that yet. I think Hearthstone, like as a design, because like you said, right, if like the illusion thing that you brought up is it feels really good to play cards, right? Like you play a card game, you want to play your cards. So Hearthstone wants to make it so that if you're brand new to the game, you don't just get absolutely rolled and you feel like you did nothing, which is probably by design. I think they do a good job. There's some kind of like things like there is a card. Someone just reminded me. It's called the Connie, which is you get to pick between countering your opponent's spell or minion.
Yeah,
and it's like a mind game. Like that's the closest thing they've ever gone to like a hand trap, which I think is completely balanced. It's pretty good.
I mean, the game's too simple for hand traps. I suppose that's really what it comes down to, bro. That's what I'm getting here. Yeah. Okay, one final question. Is Master Duel the worst game you've ever played? Is it that bad?
Worst game I've ever played? No, there's no way it's the worst game I've ever played. I've played worse games than Master Duel. In
Really?
recent memory, probably, yeah.
Okay.
Just because, but it's not the worst. Worst game I've probably ever played is League of Legends, just because it's ruined my life over the years. But like, it's the least fun I've had in a while. I wouldn't call it a bad game because I didn't get to experience the game, right? Which is the core issue I had with it. So I'm really basing it off ignorance at this point, right? Like I'm assuming the game is, again, fun if you think that if you get past the initial phase.
And you're just not interested in trying to get through that.
There's if I'm not having fun let me ask you a question. You watch TV, I'm guessing, right? I'm assuming you do. When you start a new series and you're 3 episodes in and you're not enjoying it, right? Are you going to continue watching it?
Well, listen, people always recommend One Piece because, trust me, it gets good at like episode 700 or some shit, right? Like, Yu-Gi-Oh is the One Piece of card games. Like, trust me, bro. You just need to keep playing. Like, it will get good.
Fuck no, man. One Piece is actually a really good example of Yu-Gi-Oh. It's like 1,000 episodes. If it's not good by the 3rd episode, there's no fucking way I'm watching it. No way.
Okay.
No way. And I'm sure, like, the difference is when people started watching One Piece, right? When it first came out, people probably loved it because it's like, oh, this is the first anime. Like, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna get really into it. It's probably amazing. And by the 300 episode, you're like, I'm so invested into the story. I have to see the payoff for it, right? When you introduce someone now, they're gonna be like, what the fuck? I'm not watching this. Like, there's no way. I haven't watched anything but from One Piece, by the way. I don't really watch anime. It's not really my thing.
Okay, so instead of wasting your time watching One Piece, why don't you just play a little bit more Yu-Gi-Oh? Like, trust me, bro, please. Like, it will get good. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, here's the thing. Genuinely, I have no counter argument. I have no way to, like, ease you in other than to just say, bro, trust me. Like, it will get better. Like, I cannot defend you. I cannot defend this other than just saying, like, you just have to trust me. It will get better. Other than, like, in real life, you can play like Edison format, or you can use like some dodgy illicit simulator online to like play like old school formats digitally for free, right? Like that's the only way to do it. Huh?
The amount of cope in my chat is hilarious. Like the amount of people just said cope. No, so here's what I'm doing. Simu has offered to show me the Edison format, right? Which is, I think, is a pretty good different introduction to Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Because it gives me a different perspective at least. Which is a good game, which is a good thing. If I end up liking it more, I'll be more open to trying Master Duel again, right?
Okay.
Or I'll try the Rush Duel thing that you also said, which could be another introduction to the game. It's all about a different perspective, right?
It's just like cycling you between every Yu-Gi-Oh content. Like, please, bro, play Yu-Gi-Oh. Trust me, you're gonna like it.
I'll tell you why it matters though, because I have you ever watched Game of Thrones before?
Yeah.
So like objectively for the first 6 seasons, it's a very good show. Like it's a good show. But it took me like 4 different attempts to actually start watching the show because it just mattered like the time of day it was or how bored I was, etc. But eventually I really ended up liking it. So I watched the whole show in like 3 weeks.
Okay, what if Yu-Gi-Oh is not actually that bad? I'm starting to gather like maybe you're the problem here, dude. Like what if you're the issue? What if you're the problem, man?
Like, but if I didn't enjoy it in the first 4 hours, right, I'm already really hesitant to go back to it. You know what I mean? Like, I am the problem because I did enjoy the game. But
I mean, 4 hours is only really like 9 One Piece episodes if you think about it.
I'm not watching. I'm not. There's no fucking way. There's no fucking. I've never watched a single anime in my life, dude, besides Cory in the House. So I'm not gonna bother.
Wait, how old are you?
I'm 27. I just turned 27.
You didn't like grow up with like Dragon Ball or something?
No, I think I watched maybe the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like when I was really, really young, and maybe some Pokemon. But like, I've literally never watched a single anime. Like I've never seen Dragon Ball. I've never seen Naruto.
Okay.
Never seen anything like that.
You just don't have the patience, I guess, right? Is that maybe?
It's not patience. I just watch different shows. Like.
Okay, what kind of decks in Hearthstone do you like? Do you play aggro or do you play like the combo stuff?
My favorite deck of all time is a combo deck.
Okay.
And my second favorite deck of all time was a control deck. Well, mid-range control.
So,
but
what if we teach him Drytron, chat? So
you're trying everything in your arsenal, like get it in.
All right. Thank you so much for talking to me, dude. I really appreciate it. This has been a blast.
Yeah, no worries, man.
All right.
It was fun. Have a good rest of your stream, right?
You too. Take care, buddy.